Being behind cameras has been a very interesting experience for me. Sitting behind a camera and talking to a lens, it's a new experience. Even if I shoot videos for other people, but what happens most times is I sit down here intending to talk about one thing, and then I find I'm talking about other things that I didn't really prepare for. It's a whole new experience for me. In my last video, I talked a little bit about plants eating light, and there are a few other things that I wanted to talk about, and that's the purpose for this part 2. So talking to a lot of new plant parents or plant moms and dads, I find a lot of questions they ask is how they to water their plants, and I'm like, wait, have you considered light? Because lighting is probably more important than the water you're talking about. On an average, you're going to be watering your plant maybe once a week or once in 2 weeks, but your plant needs light daily. So this video is mostly about these light considerations that you should have, that you should consider before getting your plant or buying your plant, or if you already have a plant, but how do you make sure these plants thrive in the lighting conditions you currently have? So whenever you're thinking about buying a plant, there are generally about 3 things that I ask people to consider. Number 1, where's your window facing? Is it a north-facing window, a south-facing window, a north or west-facing window? In the previous video, the part 1 video, I talked a little bit about how to find out what direction your window is. The second thing you have to consider is the intensity of light that hits your window or hits your plant. And then the third thing, of course, is the light requirement for that plant. Some plants would do really well in low light, some would do well in medium light, and some of these plants that do well in medium light may not survive in bright indirect light. So those are 3 things you need to consider when you have a plant that you want to get. Of course, you have to consider where you're going to place that plant. Is it 5 feet away from the window? Like, how is the light hitting that plant? So I have about 3 interesting hacks in finding out the type of light your plant would need. But before I go into that, I need to say this. If you have a plant that requires bright direct sunlight, or indirect sunlight rather, if you have a north-facing window, I'm sorry to break it to you, your plant is probably gonna not do well at all, except you maybe use a grow light. And I'll talk about that in a separate video. But you always have to consider the type of lighting your apartment or your house has, the type of light hitting your window or hitting your plant directly. So I'll talk about 3 hacks that I have learned over the last couple of months. The first is measuring lights manually. So how do you know if the light that is getting to your window is bright indirect light or medium or low? I would say the easiest way to do it is go by a wall, by the closest wall to that window, and then when the sun is the fullest, put your hand out there and then see how defined or how crisp the shadow forms against that wall. That will let you know if that's bright indirect light. If it's crisp, that's of course bright indirect light. If the shadow is a little bit blurry, then that's most likely medium light. If you do not see a shadow at all, LOL, you don't have light. Yeah, even if you can see light coming in, it most likely means you don't have, that's like no light, not even low light. And that's something that my apartment has a screened porch, and right there by my living room, and even though I see lights coming into the apartment, my plants will not do well at all with any of the lights, so I use grow lights. Take a look at this simulation for a second. Let's assume that this window is a south-facing window. You will notice that the sun hits the first plant indirectly. Now you notice at the other corner where the other fiddle leaf fig is located, you will notice that light only hits like the bottom leaves and the pot. That plant is probably not gonna survive at all, because even like just knowing fiddle leaf figs, they require a lot of sunlight. So there's a very easy and cheap way to measure light that is hitting your plants using an app called Lightmeter. There are several apps like that on the Play Store or the Apple Store, but I would recommend the Lightmeter app. It's about $1.99. I know there's like a free version, but with this app, what you can do is if you download the app, you can go to outdoor settings. Even if you're going to be indoors, just choose the outdoor. Once you hit the sun icon, it starts to measure the light that your lens, your phone's lens, or in my case, my iPad's lens is seeing. And what you will notice is if you choose the FC measurement, that's a foot candle measurement, what you will notice is the type of light, it's going to measure the type of light that's coming into your lens. If your reading is between 25 and 75 FC, that's a low light range. Anything below 25, I really doubt your plant is going to survive, or it's probably going to be very dormant if it's a low light plant. Between 75 and 150 FCs, that would be your medium light range. Anything above 150 FC, I keep saying degrees, 150 FC is high light. My third and final hack when it deals with light is water requirements versus light requirements. I've noticed that with plants that require a lot of sunlight, they typically would need more water. So what I do is, I mean, it's understandable, because if you position your plant where there's a lot of sunlight, there's most likely going to be some dehydration happening. At the same time, if your plant needs a lot of sunlight, it's probably synthesizing a lot of light, which would mean it requires a lot of water. So that's for me, it's a very easy rule of thumb. Is that how they say it? Yeah. So I hope this helped somebody, and I hope that you can, if it helped you, you can give me a shout out in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions, of course, in the comment section, you can let me know. I'll see you later.